inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Carrie Harris.
We knew he had talent. All he needed was an opportunity. Former Alabama basketball star Tony Mitchell called up by the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday. He signed a 10-day contract. Mitchell had been in the D-League where he was averaging more than 19 points per game and dunk after dunk. More on the Tide Hoops program coming up in a bit. And good evening, everyone, and welcome into Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm Gary Harris. Tonight, Rodney, ice-cold Diet Pepsi. Should be ice cold anyway, just got it out of the fridge. And it is. Wow, that is refreshing. Now, coming up this week, it's not a complete week until we talk about Nick Saban's football program. Basketball is heating up. March Madness is upon us, but football is still on everyone's mind right now. Specifically, Rodney, those proposed rule changes. Nick Saban got a chance to speak on the possible rule changes Friday night in Columbus, Georgia. He emphasized that he had nothing to do with the proposal, but he does support it. Mainly, he asked the question, why can't the officials control the game the way they do in the National Football League?
Coach at Philadelphia ran 83 plays a game. At Oregon, run 65 a game at Philadelphia. So why do they control the pace of play in the NFL? I mean, I'm just asking. You know, I think the bottom line is, was football intended to be a continuous game? Soccer's a continuous game. Rugby's a continuous game. But for the physical elements that are involved in playing a football game and the number of plays that you play, I don't know that it was ever intended to be a continuous game.
Nick Saban making an argument against the fast-paced, no-huddle offenses that college football now has a lot of teams employing. Rodney, we've talked about it a lot on the show, but this proposed rule change, the vote is coming up on Thursday. Any chance, with all the publicity this thing's received, that it passes?
I mean, I really don't know, to be honest with you. But my thing is this: why did we ever get away from the 25-second clock? I mean, let's be honest. I think both teams, both sides, offense, defense, should be able to substitute on every single play. I think that's the fair way to do it. That's the way it's always been. That's been the spirit of the game. And I don't understand why we ever really got away from that. I don't know that I really like that 10-second rule myself either, because I think in a game when you're in this, 9 minutes left in the game, maybe like Georgia was against Auburn, down by 21 points or whatever, I think it can take some opportunities away to make that comeback. But that's why I wonder why.
So you just think the old rule was better?
Yeah, I do. I think we should go back to the 25-second clock. That's just my opinion. The referee blows it whistle when they're ready to start play, and both sides have an opportunity to send players in on every single play. And I mean, I think that's the way it's always been. Now, I know a lot of the offensive coaches like Gus Malzahn and Hugh Freeze and all those guys complain. Of course, it gives them an advantage. It plays into their hands. Again, I think that, on the one hand, they criticize Nick Saban and Brett Bielema for complaining about that style of play where they can rush, the hurry-up, no-huddle offense. But at the same time, it's because the rule now favors them. And, I mean, now they want to complain that there might be something implemented that wouldn't favor them, that might favor the defensive side. So, again, I think you go back to the 25-second clock and play football the way it was always played.
Well, it's on Thursday, the vote, based on what I've seen with some of these polls that have been taken where they've talked to coaches and they haven't given their name. I don't think it's got a prayer of passing, so maybe we can at least quit talking about it and move on to something else. Well, since it is March, let's talk a little basketball, Rod. A Bama win over Auburn on Saturday made Tide fans feel a little bit better about the season, but tonight they head into what is truly hostile territory. Lexington, Kentucky, home of the Wildcats. Rodney, is this team making any improvement under Anthony Grant, in your opinion?
I mean, I think they came out and played really well, against Auburn from the get-go. I mean, they played really well, and, they beat Missouri a week or so ago. So, yeah, I think that, again, I think we need to watch this team and see how the season finishes out, Gary, and how they do, and, kind of move forward from there.
Well, Kentucky's lost 2 in a row, including a home game at Arkansas, a very bad loss at South Carolina, but bad news is they're not going to be in a good mood, and Alabama has not won a game away from Coleman Coliseum this season. So as I said on the sports earlier, probably a little far-fetched to think they can go into Lexington and pull off the upset. But stranger things have happened in sports. That's why they play the game. They'll tee it up at 8 p.m. up in Lexington tonight at Rupp Arena. Here's Anthony Grant talking about facing powerful Kentucky.
They're extremely big and physical. I think when you look at, obviously you mentioned the front court, but their guards are 6'5" and 6'6" as well. Number one, I believe, offensive rebounding team in the country. They do a great job of getting offensive rebounds and keeping possessions alive for themselves. We've got to do a great job being able to defend without fouling, and then obviously it'll take the best effort of the year from a rebounding standpoint.
Alabama playing better lately. Here's some telling numbers from the last 3 games. The emergence of Levi Randolph, the junior out of Madison, has been getting his groove on. Alabama scoring more as a team. And after the game tonight at Kentucky, they're at home on Saturday for Senior Day against Arkansas. Well, in the eyes of many, the Tide's men's program is still stalling despite the recent success, but it's not hard to see that the women's program under first-year head coach Kristy Curry is trending way up. Let's talk about these women, Rod. 7-9 in the SEC may not sound great to some, but keep in mind where Alabama's been at. They'll be a number 7 seed in the upcoming SEC tournament. That's their highest seed since they were a 5 seed back in 1999. They've beat the likes of Georgia this year, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, LSU, lost a heartbreaker in overtime at Auburn. Now they go into the SEC tournament to play LSU that they beat on Sunday at Foster by 18 points. You know, it looks like that Alabama might be able to make a little hay in the postseason. Kristy Curry, talk about it.
The way we've played on the road, you know, the level of competition that we've played lately, and to be as successful as we've been has to give you confidence headed into the tournament. And, you know, I think we've proven on any given night, like I said the other day, except the South Carolina game at South Carolina, we compete with everybody in this league and have put ourselves in a position to win. Whether we've won or come up short, we have to have a lot of confidence headed into the tournament.
As I stated, Bama draws LSU again in the tournament. Alabama posted its best conference record in 12 years, so things looking up for the Tide's women's program. And Shavonte Myers of Sunshine High School, the only senior on the team. So the whole squad, plus some new recruits, will be back next year. Well, much more to come on Tider Insider Television. Next up, we're getting back to football. We're winding down our spring practice previews. We'll check in on the offensive line. Also, more from Nick Saban's visit with the media on Friday night. He gave a little insight on what went wrong with the 2013 season down the stretch, but how it could help the Tide moving forward. And as always, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Go ahead and give us a call, 205-348-9882. or send us an email or contact us on social media. We want to hear from you. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV returns right after the break. The late season stumble that many Bama fans still haven't gotten over, probably never will. Losses to Auburn and Oklahoma at the end of the season ruined an otherwise perfect campaign. Players citing entitlement and a lack of focus as culprits in those losses. We're back on TITV. I'm Gary Harris alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Nick Saban talked about the ending to the regular season, and to some degree, he agreed with players like A.J. McCarron and Kevin Norwood's assessment of why things went south at the end of the season. Let's talk about those last 2 games. Rodney, it started, of course, with a game that Alabama could easily won against Auburn. Let's don't forget about that. Really probably should have won it. Then against Oklahoma, Alabama didn't look like themselves. Mistakes.
Yeah, you know, again, I think there's a small line sometimes, Gary, between winning and losing. Certainly we saw that in the last 2 games. I mean, Alabama had plenty of opportunities. They missed field goals. They dropped a touchdown pass. You know, you have a 90-yard drive basically that results in no points, and that certainly was a very big part of that game in terms of the Auburn game. And then you look at the Oklahoma game. It reminded me a lot of the Utah game. I don't know about you.
It did. It did. Well, what about Nick Saban? What did he think? Here's the coach on what went wrong at the end.
We had 3 years worth of team that really never had a loss of consequence. You know, even when we lost for 2 years, we still won the national championship. And then we're 11-0 in this season. So we have 3 years of players who have never had a significant loss, that had consequences that affected them. And I think sometimes, you know, the players can get a little complacent and maybe even lose their respect for winning and what it takes to be their best. I think the fact that we lost those 2 games has done a lot to make our players realize and respect what it takes to win.
Nick Saban will use those losses as coaching moments for 2014. You can bet on that. Well, Rod, one area that took some criticism early, then things settled down, but they got a lot more criticism late, was the offensive line. We continue our spring practice previews now by talking about that unit. A lot of holes to fill next season on the O-line.
Well, I mean, you look at it, though, Gary, and they also have a lot of talent. You know, they've got a lot of young talent. I thought Austin Shepard at right tackle did a great job last year down the stretch. He really came on. Grant Hill's another guy that could play a lot of positions there. Ryan Kelly, there you see him, number 70. You know, he's got 2 more years, and he had a really good year last year when he wasn't injured. And, you know, some young guys like Cam Robinson at left tackle. That'll certainly be an interesting spot to see if he can fill the role that was left by Cyrus Kwanjo's departure for the NFL draft. So, you know, of course, you do have to replace Anthony Steen at right guard. But, again, I think they've got a lot of young guys that will give them some good looks this spring and be interesting. There's Leon Brown, who started at that right guard spot in the Sugar Bowl. So, you know, again, I think Alabama has a lot of young players to choose from.
It's interesting you mentioned Cam Robinson. Oftentimes you don't think about a true freshman starting at left tackle, but it could happen. Here's a look at the O-line returning, what they lost, and who's coming in as part of the signing class. As Rodney alluded to, a lot of talent, but chemistry always the most important aspect of an offensive line. Will Mario Cristobal be able to build chemistry with this unit? We will find out. And next week, we'll be nearly 1 week away from the beginning of spring. We'll talk about the tight end position and a potential future at that position, star at that position for the Tide in the being of O.J. Howard. Then, of course, we'll wrap up talking about the position everybody wants to discuss, the quarterbacks. A-Day is scheduled for April the 19th, so spring football is here. And we've got you covered, as always, on Tider Insider TV. Well, coming up next, a peek inside Alabama softball. What's coming up for the Tide this week? Plus, we hand the show over to you. We welcome your phone calls, emails, tweets. You see the information there on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Go ahead and give us a call, send us an email, or contact us on social media. We'll be back with more Tider Insider TV presented by Buffalo Rock right after this. Let's check in on Bama softball. The Tide over the weekend hosted the Easton Crimson Classic. They won their first 4 games, including a win on Saturday, 1-0 over 9th-ranked Florida State. But they ended the weekend for the 2nd straight week with a Sunday loss as the Seminoles beat the Tide 5-1. Though Alabama, though, still comes out of the weekend with a 17-4 record overall and a national ranking, so the Tide's strong again. All right, Rod, you ready to take some phone calls?
Sure.
They're lined up for us. Let's get it started with John Max in Cordova. Hey, John Max, what's going on?
Yeah, hey.
Hey.
My question is in the starting quarterback in the 8A game, who do you think will be the starting quarterback, Sims or that guy from Florida State that came over to Alabama?
All right, John Max. Well, there'll be 2 starting quarterbacks. You'll have one for the Crimson team, one for the White team, and it will not be Coker because he will not go through spring. Certainly Blake Sims will have an excellent opportunity to quarterback one of the teams, and all the quarterbacks are going to play a lot during spring.
I think it's a great opportunity for some of those guys. You know, certainly Alec Morris has got to be a redshirt sophomore. It'd be a great opportunity for him. I'm talking about spring practice in general, not just the 8A game. And, you know, you have Parker McLeod, Cooper Bateman, David Cornwell. It'll be interesting to see how much he participates this spring coming off that knee injury that he had in high school. But he's a true freshman that enters school here in January. So it'll be really interesting to watch him, Gary. And again, I know a lot of people are excited about Jacob Coker transferring in from Florida State, but he won't be here till, you know, this summer, so we'll have to wait on him.
Certainly, though, John Max would not be surprised to see Blake Sims start for one of those teams in the 8A game. Let's go to Fayette and talk to Gary. Gary, what's going on, man?
I'm fine. Just one more question on recruiting. Could Alabama, could they have had Rock Thomas if they had wanted him?
All right, Gary, Rock Thomas, the All-State running back from Oxford High School. for a long time was thought to be a heavy Alabama lean. He wound up signing with Auburn. Can you answer that question?
Well, I mean, first, he's probably arguing with one of his Auburn friends over that. You know, that's been kind of a deal there. But, no, I think so. I really do, Gary. I think Rock Thomas was very close to committing to Alabama a year before, but he decided to wait. And I think that, you know, Alabama's depth chart might have been a little bit scary to him. But, you know, I think, Gary, that Alabama could have probably had Rock Thomas if they recruited him maybe a little bit, I don't want to say harder because I know they recruited him really hard. Let me just put it to you this way. I think Alabama had a good shot to get him, but Auburn had a great need there and gives him an opportunity maybe at earlier playing time, so I think that probably helped them out.
Bottom line, it doesn't really matter now. He's at Auburn, and Alabama's got a whole stable of running backs. And in regard to that, our email question is about the running back position. Rodney, and I think we asked this not long ago. Could Derrick Henry beat out T.J. Yeldon at running back from Travis over in Moody? And anything's possible. I think Nick Saban, as we've talked about on the show, is going to take a look at everything in the program. T.J. Yeldon is an established star at that position, but they're both going to play a lot.
Well, I mean, you're looking at T.J. Yeldon, a guy who came in as a true freshman, ran for over 1,000 yards, and the sophomore did it again. And I don't think there's ever been a player in the history of the school that's done that back-to-back. And, you know, Derrick Henry looks like he's a phenomenal talent. How good can he be? It's really, it's amazing how good that possibly he could turn out to be. And again, I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities. But let's be honest, Gary, when you look at Alabama, the way Nick Saban runs his offense, you know, you're going to use more than one running back. You've got T.J. Yeldon, you've got Kenyon Drake, and you've also got Derrick Henry. So certainly those guys will play. You've got some other guys, Tyron Jones, Alti Tenpenny, guys to keep an eye on. Justin Fowler still around, who does a lot of versatile things. And so it's going to be really interesting.
You know what I'm looking forward to seeing in the offense this year?
What's that?
You know, Lane Kiffin is offensive coordinator. Where did Lane Kiffin come from?
USC.
What's USC known for?
Tailbacks.
That's right, in the power sweep. The toss sweep. I'd love to see it.
Well, you know, that's an interesting point because I know in recruiting now, Gary, Alabama's going after fullbacks, true fullbacks. So it will be interesting to see if they line up in that eye and toss sweep 28.
With Yeldon and Henry, I'd hate to be on the edge as a defender, seeing those guys with their shoulders square and some built-up momentum coming at me, I can tell you that. Well, still more to come on Tider Insider TV. Next up, Alabama Gymnastics is rolling. Their latest win was a big one. We'll talk about that coming up. Plus, we continue with phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the information on how you can get in touch with us. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. More after this. Sarah Patterson, the Alabama Gymnastics squad, could not have asked for a better scenario on Friday night at Coleman Coliseum. They were neck and neck with defending NCAA champion Florida all night long, but on the floor, the Tide put on a championship performance, scored their highest numeric value of the season, and posted a big win. Alabama ranked number 4 this week in the latest gymnastics poll. All right, let's get back to the phone lines. Our buddy CB is with us in Tuscaloosa. Hey, CB, how are you?
Doing fine. Just laid up. Sorry. How y'all, gentlemen of the jury? Y'all doing all right?
Any better? We couldn't stand it.
I understand. Look, this baseball team, we had a losing record in the SEC last year, and so many high hopes. And I hear this and I hear that, and I go to the games, and we're begging for a good team in this baseball team. Can this coaching staff get the job done? What do you think, man?
We'll see, CB. 5-5 so far. Got a hit. You know, I was a little disappointed in the hitting. You know, they went on, Hattiesburg got beat 2-1, then they didn't score a single run their first 2 games at Louisiana Lafayette. Now, yeah, they came out Sunday with 21 hits and 12 runs exploded, but you got to hit the ball consistently. Rodney, I think the pitching is plenty good enough, whether it be their weekend starters, their midweek starters, their bullpen. You've got to hit some in the Southeastern Conference. That's going to tell the tale.
Yeah, and score some runs.
Yeah.
And they scored them all, what, in the one game?
Yeah. So big win on Sunday. They got Auburn tonight. If that game will get started down there in Montgomery with the rain, we're going to see if this team can bring the bats enough to really help out what has been a solid pitching staff so far. Let's talk to Larry on the telephone. Larry, how are you?
I'm doing all right, sir, Gary.
Yes, sir. What you got for us tonight?
Is Blake Sims quarterback this year? The boy Florida State going to come in and quarterback?
Well, we talked a little bit about that later. Blake Sims, Larry, is in the mix. I mean, he is the number 2 quarterback from last year. So he'll go into spring with a good look. Coker, everybody's going to watch for him when he comes in during the summer. But Blake Sims is in the mix, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I think when you look at him, he's got some experience. He's played the last couple of years. I think he played a little bit more last year. I know he's had a role late in some games too, and he does things a little bit differently. But Larry, I think that this spring certainly will tell a little bit more about Blake Sims in terms of next season.
All right, thanks for the phone calls. Real quickly, we're going to try to get to one more email before we go to break. And the email comes to us from Jacob in Tuscaloosa. Could Jalston Fowler go back to fullback and running back as he did in 2012? I think, Jacob, Rodney, let me know if you agree. I think he's primarily going to be a true fullback this year, not an H-back, probably not much at running back.
Yeah, that'll be, some certainly interesting to watch, and I think, yeah, he will line up at fullback.
All right, thanks for the phone calls. Thanks for the emails. We're winding down here on Tider Insider TV. Next, we'll show you what Joe Namath has been up to this week down in Florida. It's not your typical retirement activity. A chilly but beautiful night continues live from Tuscaloosa. Tider Insider TV. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us, please. A busy week for Crimson Tide athletics. The SEC Women's Basketball Tournament gets going in Duluth, Georgia. Baseball at the Max Capital City Classic tonight against Auburn and Montgomery. Hopefully weather will let them get that one going. Softball starts SEC play this weekend against South Carolina, and another big gymnastics meet Friday against Stanford at Coleman Coliseum. So it is a busy, busy week. Before we get out of here, we wanted to show you this. Joe Namath is enjoying himself in Florida with the New York Yankees down in Tampa. There's Joe in full Yankees gear with his number 12 on the back, and he got to test out that arm. Watch this, Rodney, throwing to Derek Jeter. Whoa. A little bit of air in there, but that's a strike. Broadway Joe, they still love him in Florida and in New York. All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. It is dinner time. We're headed to see our good friends over at Buddy's Rib and Steak on Highway 69 North in Northport. Come out and join us for dinner in about 15 minutes. And as always, as Rodney and I are outfitted from the locker room with our original Elephant Wear shirts. Check out the locker room located on the University Strip since 1964 or shop online. We do, and you'll be glad you did as well. All right, you can catch a replay of our show tonight after the late news, or you can catch it online at WVUATV.com. For Rodney, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week. So long, everybody. Have a good night.